CliffCentral.com.
We're going to cry, laugh, and love. And we're going to do it together. The Life with Lebang podcast. And just like that, it's a whole nother episode of Life with Lebang. Welcome to my weekly podcast. I'm so glad that you could be here. I am feeling so good right now. I've just proven that even if things happen, I'm in control of how I react. So I'm happy that I get to experience things that are different. You know, they say in Sizulu, there's a saying that says, Amalanga awafani. Days are not the same. So some days you'll wake up and you'll feel so good and so ready and so excited and so energetic and so amped and ready. And then other days, not so much. But how you respond to that is what makes the difference. So regardless of what I went through this morning, I'm here right now with you just to impart that good vibes, the real energies that you need and that I'm here to share with you. Welcome to Life with Lebang. This is episode 4. Yay! Every episode that we do, I just get more and more excited to share. Because it's like one step closer, and like, you know, when you're going up a ladder, it's like you can see your goal, you see where you want to go, you can almost see like just where you want to be, and you're just going up this ladder slowly and slowly. And so I'm really, really excited to know that we're making our way up and we're working our way up to the top. And right now, I want to share something with you about something very dear to me and something very close to my heart. As you know, I'm a mom of 4. I am the hip-hop mom. They don't call me the hip-hop mom for nothing. But the bigger part of that is the mom part, the heavier part. Being a mom is a 24/7 job. It's not something I can just hand in a resignation. It's not something I can just, you know, give them back the job spec and be like, it's cool, you can keep it. I've signed up for life. So every day things generally happen. And before I became a mother, I absolutely had no idea what I was getting myself into. I'd always read on social media like little things being said like, giving birth is so insane. You lose your teeth. Giving birth is so hectic. You never get your body back. There's just a bunch of myths. There's things that are constantly said about the birthing process as a concept. And I personally was obviously, you know, exposed to some of these myths. I almost believed some of them even. And I didn't know what to expect. But luckily, having gone through it a couple of times, 3 times to be exact, and after the 3 times, I know that now it's never the same thing. It's a completely different experience every single time. You'll never have the same birthing experience twice. After my 3rd birthing experience, I came to appreciate it. And I was like, you know what? I must just be grateful that my kids are here and that I'm still here and that I made it. Because the stories that we hear online, from friends, from family, they're quite scary, some of them anyway. Now more than ever, because of social media, we are able to see what other women go through in their birthing experience. And side note, giving birth in South Africa is not, you know, it's not as glamorous as I guess in other countries. You know, number one, our healthcare is just incredibly expensive. So let's start there. Giving birth in South Africa is expensive. I guess giving birth in most countries is expensive, but way more here. So if you don't have access to some certain funds, then you're already giving birth in a public hospital, of which I've been lucky enough to give birth in both. So I've had the private hospital experience and the public hospital experience, of which over time I will share every little nitty-gritty detail with you about that. But one of the bigger things that I want to talk about today is about debunking some of these birthing myths that we hear. And I mean, there's all sorts of myths that we encounter. The first myth is that you can't breastfeed after a C-section. So a C-section is basically where it's a surgery. They have to cut up your stomach and take your child out. It's surgery basically. And then there's a natural birth, which is commonly known as a VBAC. which is the other option, of which you should want to do, right? Because it's the most natural thing to do. Well, apparently not. A lot of women actually just want to do a C-section and get it over and done with. I mean, think about it. We watch movies, and in the movies, you always see like a woman in bed screaming her lungs out. It looks scary. It looks painful. It just looks like something you don't even want to be a part of, because you're like, hey, nah, no thank you. So movies have generally made, vaginal birth like this really messy thing and this really scary thing. Of which, don't get me wrong, it's definitely scary, but it's not always messy. So anyway, myth number 2 is that women don't have vaginal bleeding after a C-section, which is also incorrect, because either way, when you're giving birth, your body's basically talking to you. For the best way I can describe the birthing experience is your body having a conversation. And what a powerful thing. Your body is so clever. It knows everything that you're experiencing. It knows every turn, every step of the way, everything that the baby does. Your body is already planning for that to happen. This is how clever our bodies are. So when you're pregnant, your body is preparing itself for all the changes that are happening. It's a conversation that you and your body are constantly having. Your body's telling you, I'm not okay, I need this. Your job is to just listen and do with that information what you will. So naturally, a vaginal birth, a VBAC, should be, what one would want to do. I mean, obviously we all have our different preferences. You may not want to have a VBAC. I wanted to have a VBAC with my firstborn in 2014. I was told that I cannot. I asked the doctor, why can't I have a VBAC? And he said, well, number one, after much measuring, blah, 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 big word, blah, blah, my waist was apparently too thin. And that little tunnel where my son's head was supposed to go in was too small. And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, you can even go get a second opinion. That's just facts. I'm going to have to cut you open. And I was still young. I was 24. So I said, cool. You know what? If I don't need to push a whole human out of my vagina, I'm happy to it's fine. Cut me open. Because also, being young, I had like another myth about the vagina being able to get back to its real size after birth. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Society has generally almost made it seem like after you give birth as a woman, you'll never be the same again. Your body won't be the same again. And that is true, but it doesn't mean my body won't get better or it won't go back to an even better state that it was in before. Society has almost made it seem as though you're broken. So those are some of my fears as a younger person, being faced with being pregnant and how I was going to go through this birthing process. So I had a C-section at the age of 24. The doctor cut me up. I was stuck in bed for about 3 weeks. I could barely do anything because it was so painful. 3 weeks. I was like, you know what? No more kids for me. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm closing up shop. By God's grace, a couple of years later, I was now pregnant with my second. And this was in 2019. And now I've done a little bit of growth, a little bit of research. I spent time, online in a lot of groups with other mothers. So now I'm like, there's way more benefits to having a natural birth than there are to having a Caesar. And I've got this huge scar that I see every morning when I look in the mirror. That is proof of my Caesar. So I'm like, let me try for a natural birth, because now I see the benefits and I know that it's possible. And then what does the doctor say? Yeah, no, it's too late to have a natural birth. I'm like, what can I do? Like, what is it that I can do? I can't do natural birth. I can't do, what do you want from me? At this point, I am insanely confused because I am so hell-bent on doing a natural birth. But now I can't. Why? Because now I'm high risk. High risk is when you've already had a C-section in the past and now you want to try for a natural birth. There's a lot of medical terms that are, that are there. Either your scar can tear from the inside. There's just high risks. So doctors are usually like, hey, they don't really want to, get too involved. But I'm adamant on going for the natural birth. I'm like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. And I don't care what has to happen. I'm going to do it. And a C-section is more expensive than a natural birth. So yeah, I'm going for the natural birth. Anyway, I do the natural birth and everything goes swimmingly. I was in labor for like less than 6 hours. By the time I got to the hospital, I was already at 8 centimeters dilated. I got there, I pushed my daughter out, and I was done. I was driving the very next day. The very next day, I drove myself to work. So I'm like, okay, cool. Clearly, natural birth is where it's at. Because from my memory, when I had a Caesar, I was stuck in bed for 3 hours because it was so sore. Because that was an actual operation where I had a scar that had to heal. Layers and layers of skin had been cut through. It was just, it was messy. But after I had my natural birth, I literally just stood up and carried on with life. It's almost as if nothing happened. And the same thing with my previous pregnancy a few months ago, 7 months ago. Literally woke up, went to the hospital, pushed my baby out, went home like nothing happened. So for me, natural births are the way to go. But then you realize that there's reasons why doctors wouldn't encourage natural births. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I recently went to the doctor when I was still pregnant. I think I was about 25 weeks. And I went to Olivedale Clinic and I said, hey, I'm here for a natural birth. And the doctor said, we actually don't even do natural births. I was like, what? You just don't do them. And he's like, yeah, the risks are too high. We encourage C-sections. And that for me was scary. I mean, I'm sure there are some medical reasons as to why this is the case, but I just found it a little, I was taken aback a bit, by like the concept of you can't choose anymore. If this is your doctor and you love your doctor and your doctor doesn't do natural births, then you are stuck in a Caesar and you don't have a choice. And you're going to pay more because a Caesar is more expensive than a natural birth. And then I started asking myself, like, back in the day when there were no, C-sections and doctors around to cut us open, how were women giving birth so, fine and so well? And then I did a little bit of research on the human body, especially the woman's body. The woman's body is such a magical place. It's such a clever thing. It's such a smart thing. The minute that child leaves your body, as I said, it's a conversation that you're having with your body when you're pregnant. It's a conversation that you and your body are constantly in when you're experiencing all these changes. If you listen to your body and you respect your body and say, hey body, this is what I'm thinking, let's do this, what do you think? Your body will tell you, you'll be cool, just do this, just do that. I promise you that post-birth experience, it'll be clean. That post-birth experience won't be as chaotic as some, from my experience anyway. So my plan is, over the next couple of weeks, is to basically unpack these various pregnancy myths, birthing myths, particularly in South Africa, considering this major gap that we have with our medical care. I'll tell you about my experience at, where was I? Morningside Clinic. My amazing experience at one of the best private, hospitals in the country. Had a great time there. Gave birth and I felt like I was on holiday. No, really. And then I'll tell you about my experience at Edenvale Hospital, which is a public hospital, but one of the better ones. It was chilled vibes, wasn't as hectic as I thought it was going to be. I quite enjoyed it. That was probably, maybe my favorite. And then I'll tell you about my previous pregnancy experience at, what's it called? Rima Musa. It's in Sophia Town. It's one of it was really a tough experience. It was dodgy. It was hectic. But I'll share that with you. So I'm glad that I've had a range. And I know from A to Z what it's like to give birth within the South African medical system throughout. So stick around. Let's unpack. Let's share our experiences. I'll also get some actual medical practitioners in so that they can also give us their 2 cents. In fact, one of my bucket lists is to actually put together a documentary about some of the experiences that we encounter as young women having to give birth in South Africa, especially in public hospitals. So I hope I can achieve that. I hope before my last day comes on earth, I would have done that. I would have put together a documentary on what it's like to give birth and be pregnant and have to give birth in South Africa. But that's the conversation that we can unpack over the next couple of weeks. Just so that we can see exactly what's going on, because it's a big thing considering the stats and the numbers and how many young South African girls are constantly falling pregnant, some because they want to, but others not because they want to. So these are some of the things that we're going to be unpacking on Life with Lebang. Just in case you're wondering what you're listening to real life. It is Life with Lebang.
CliffCentral.com.
We're going to cry, laugh, and love. And we're going to do it together. The Life with Lebang podcast.